Hey guys, here we have some eBay turbos for a 335i. I actually just received them. So these are a 17T GTX style 11 blades. Oh, I did not realize it's actually two boxes. It's actually two boxes bonded together. So it should be an easier unboxing because I only have to show you guys one of them. Alright, so get this one out of the way and only do one for now. I already have my old turbos out, so this is a very exciting feel. Here we have some sort of a Turbo 10X graph. Okay, you already know this is probably not real because it says these were tested in United Kingdom or UK. That doesn't make a lot of sense because if they're made in China, they're not going to bother taking them to UK just to test them. But apparently they're tested to up to 150,000 RPM. We got a little bit of gaskets. And here we have more packaging. And inside, finally, I have my hands on the eBay Turbo itself. So what I'll do is I'll take off this packaging so we can have a closer look. So here we have side by side both of the turbos, guys. These are obviously the upgraded eBay ones, and these are the stock ones. So the stock one has a different style compressor wheel. This is a GTX style with 11 blades. Obviously a lot bigger compressor wheel compared to this. I think this is called a TD0310T. That's the factory model number. These are a TD04. TD4 means a slightly bigger body instead of a 03 body. And 17T refers to the wheels. And obviously the wheel is upgraded. Now, one thing I didn't like about the new ones is that just like the old ones have a little bit of a shaft play. What I'll do is I'll zoom in so maybe you guys are able to tell. So as you can see, the shaft has a little bit of a play. But if we come here, these are brand new turbos. I don't know if this is normal, but you can definitely see the shaft play. I mean, they spin freely, but if you try to make the shaft kind of vibrate, it does do that. Now we'll get to the back of these turbos where we have the wastegate itself. The main reason these turbos generally go bad. So this is actually a good turbo. It's a used turbo, but the car only had 110,000 kilometers, so you can tell this is what a good stock turbo is supposed to be like. And as you can tell, there's not a lot of play in this wheel. And now what I'll do is I'll set this aside and we will just play around with this one. This is the upgraded one, and it would be a shame if it has play. Well, for the most part there is very minimal play, and yeah, feels really smooth so far. Generally speaking, on these turbos, things don't really go wrong with your compressor wheel. It's usually your wastegate that goes bad. So, I mean, your 335i is probably a car that costs less than $10,000. If it was a $100,000 car, obviously, go ahead and get the best quality turbos possible. For a car that's going to cost you between $5,000 and $10,000, I just don't see the reasoning on getting, you know, really high-end, high-quality turbos if these will do the job. And other than that, I mean, most of us are probably not gonna, like me especially, I know I'm not gonna keep my car for more than 2 years. So as long as they serve the purpose for 3 to 4 years, I'm happy with them. I mean, I don't plan on keeping my car for a decade. If you are planning on keeping your car for a decade, of course, get something incredibly high quality. But so far, the way things are, I am sure these will do the trick. As of now, the turbos are ready. Everything looks good. Besides the turbos, of course, you also need to change some gaskets. This is the oil return gasket. You need 2 of those, 1 for each turbo. There is a whole lot of O-rings. There's 2 different types in here. I guess I will figure that out as I go. And obviously you need 16 studs and the bolts itself. Obviously these bolts look a lot nicer than what I pulled out, which is nice. I ended up getting twice the quantity, 2 sets actually, because my buddy also decided to do the same upgrade, eBay turbos, and he also needed gaskets and stuff, so I just ordered him some as well. What we'll do now is go under the car and remove the old studs and stuff, and then we will start putting these on. So now I have prepped up all the lines and put new gaskets and everything I needed to. This is the coolant drain pipe. We can get this out of the way, and 2 of the coolant lines actually attach to this pipe. I believe the coolant drain lines are these 2. These 2 are the coolant drain lines. These 2 are the coolant feed lines, and on the left there we have the oil drain lines. And make sure the oil feed lines, the 2 oil feed lines, you attach them to the turbo before you install the turbos to the car, because once the turbos are in, you almost can't get to them. So yeah, just make sure they're in, and now we can slowly and steadily move towards putting in our first turbo. First of all, let's go ahead and put these coolant feed lines back in. They have their new gaskets on now, so it shouldn't be too hard to go in. So I've put in one of the turbo feed lines in, but before we do anything else, I think before the feed lines, it's actually a better idea to put all of these 16 studs in place. Seems like they're fitting okay. So here we are, guys. We have our coolant inlet lines installed, and I will be putting in this turbo first. That black pipe right there is our inlet, and the vacuum hose. So we have to make sure the vacuum hose and the inlet pipe go in right now, and obviously the turbos go in where they're supposed to go. So here we have the first turbo in, guys, and that is the wastegate itself. I hooked up the vacuum hose. It's kind of behind there, you can't really see it. That is the coolant hose we had from before, and the oil line, if you may be able to see here, has already made its way in its place automatically. I didn't really have to touch it. And with the turbo gaskets in, the turbo is held in place. I just put in a few of the nuts around so it stays in place. The one thing I'm not liking is that the fitment of the inlet pipe around the rubber gasket is not exactly perfect. So as you guys saw, the fitment of the stock inlets on the turbo, now you can definitely make the stock turbos or stock inlets fit. The way you do it is you just keep trimming the bushing until it just fits. That's the only way to do it. Now I actually ended up removing my stock inlets, and the reason is that I will be making my own inlets. The way you do is you just route piping here, and you delete these canisters, and you relocate the coolant reservoir here. You just move it there, and you just have to extend one coolant hose from the bottom. And this is kind of how I plan on doing the routing. This is going to be for the back side. This pretty much sits here like this. This is a rough setup, mock-up, and this is the other pipe. I have extra piping to work with, so I am sure one of these will do the trick. Now the reason I am getting rid of the stock inlets is that it's not that their size is bad. Here is one of the inlets. Like, as you see, it's pretty beefy. It will definitely let a lot of air through. The problem is up here. Now this is the part that attaches to the turbo itself, and if you measure this, I actually measured this, and this is actually less than 1.5 inches, and this is pretty much the most restrictive factor. Like, it hugs the engine really well. It's well made. It's a stock part, so you can't really do better than this, but it's just unfortunate that it gets restrictive up here. And if you're looking to run above 18 psi, it's gonna cause you some trouble. Now the way you remove the stock inlets is that you take off the radiator fan. There's only one bolt around this corner. That bolt comes out, you unplug it. There's a groove there, like or a clip from the pipe going to the radiator fan, and it just slides right out. And using two T30 bolts, you get this inlet out. For the back one, there are 2 bolts at the back here. I already undid them, and my inlet is actually, it's loose. I just have to pull it out. Like, as you can see, it's just kind of stuck in there, and it's relatively easy to get to if you access the bolts from the back. So moving on, I have taken out the vacuum canister hoses. You can actually just remove them and delete them and directly hook up the vacuum hoses to the solenoids, and of course this metal bracket has been removed as well. It is bolted in right from underneath. As long as the turbos are out, you can see the bolts. It's 4 bolts, really easy to get to. Now my plan is, in order to fit both of the intakes here in this kind of area, my plan is to cut this right here, right about here, and just move these 2 bolts inward, so the vacuum solenoids kind of sit in there. Here we go, guys. This piece has been cut, and now the distance between these 2 bolts is the same as these 2 holes is the same as these 2 holes. So we're just gonna take this and shift this to the left, and that way we have a little bit more room to work around here. So as you can see, we have this turbo mounted and ready to go, and now we'll get to the second one. So one thing that I like to do is just get the turbo closed and then put the gaskets on. Otherwise the gaskets just fall over, and for some reason they don't really stay in place if you put them in beforehand. Before I slide it all the way, just double check the gaskets are there. Didn't fall out of place or something. Things are looking good, so we'll just take a few of these nuts and screw these on. You can also take these oil lines and kind of join them together. We'll also go ahead and hook up this vacuum line. But the turbo's mocked up nicely, and now I think we're ready to tighten down these bolts. Now that the turbos are in, we can move on and put in the oil line gaskets. This one goes in right here. Now we do the same for the second line. So here we are at the top view, guys, and as you can see, both of the turbos are mounted in place. And I really like the fact that once the vacuum solenoids are out of the way, you can really see a lot of the turbos. There's actually a lot of room in there to work on. But one thing I realized is the vacuum relocation I did, I'm not sure it's gonna work. I think after the piping is done, I might be able to put it back in its original position. I had to remove the vacuum solenoids because there was no way I could have fit the inlet piping in there. But eventually, I was able to figure it out, and that's the inlet pipe coming from the turbo. It's a rubber pipe. The thing is, if the solenoids are in place, or this plate is in place, you can make the inlet pipe fit, but it will touch the headers, and of course if anything is touching the exhaust manifold or headers, whatever you call it, I mean your rubber is gonna burn up for sure, regardless of how good quality it is, right? Now I'll let you guys know right now, the most challenging part of this job will definitely be mocking up these inlets. It will be a combination of using different metal piping and different sized couplers, and then you'll eventually figure it out. You do have to raise and lower the engine a few times, get back in there, get up here, make adjustments, and I was eventually able to figure it out. So here we have the first iteration, guys, and that is a rough mock-up of one of the inlet pipes. I still need to cut about 3 inches of the pipe so this can move closer. The other thing I realized is that yes, once everything is hooked up, you should be able to use your factory boost solenoid location, so you don't really have to move it. The only bad thing is I cut out that half, which doesn't really matter, it didn't really hold anything, but I'm pretty sure even if it was not cut, there's no way you can get to the bolts once the inlet is in. So we went ahead and took off some more material, and this is a very rough mock-up, but this is where the first intake will sit, and this should leave good enough room for the second intake to come in right here. Now one more thing I did, I don't think you have to do it, but I cut a hole in my wheel well. This is just a plastic wheel well, and the reason is that once the air flows in from the kidney grills, the air is more likely to go wherever it finds a way out. So in this case, since we have a kind of a big hole here, the air will be more likely to go to the left, and the intakes will have a better airflow, I feel like. Now we take these solenoids, and I am going to attempt to install them again. To be very honest, I'm not sure what's the best way to go about this. I mean, should we like, I'm not 100% sure, should we install the inlets first or the solenoids? So first bolt is in. I'm really loving the fact that I actually have space at the bottom now. I can actually see the turbos, because before that was not the case. So I'll lift the pipe just a little bit, and yeah, okay, right, I can lower the pipe and actually get to. So here is the first one. Here we have the second one. And now we have, of course, the vacuum hoses. They go in really easily. And this one is just gonna go to the turbo. I can put that in later. So before I start off making the second inlet, I put everything else together, because just so I am sure nothing comes in the way. So as you can see, all the coolant lines, oil lines, everything is in place. Pretty much everything is in here, good to go, besides the downpipes. And yeah, everything looks clean, a lot cleaner than it originally was. And here you can have a decent idea of how my rear inlet looks like. It took a lot of work to figure this out, but I mean, again, there's a combination of different couplers and pipes, and you should be able to get it going. So yeah, let's go up and have a look at the second inlet now. So at the top here, and if we have a look down there, as you can see, the turbo here is a lot more accessible, and pretty much it's going to be an S-shaped coupler, or sorry, 90-degree coupler, and a straight pipe coming out, and that should do the trick. Now I do have this pipe lying around from a long time ago, so it's pretty much Audi S-shaped coupler. What I'm gonna do is I plan on cutting this here about a 90, so it becomes a 90-degree coupler, and then a straight pipe. This pipe gets cut about here, and then just hook up this second intake. So this is what I was talking about, just a 90-degree coupler, straight pipe, and the filter should go on right here. Just make sure every time you cut pipe, make sure you file the ends and the inside and the outside of the pipe, because any metal shillings or fillings you have in there, they're going to go directly in your turbo, and obviously could destroy your turbo if it's not completely clean. And yeah, I just like to run water through as well, just to make sure everything comes out. And let's try test fitting it now. I will try this with one hand. I doubt I will succeed. But yeah, this is a really good fit. And of course the filter slides on top. So as the intakes are done, now of course it's time to take care of the reservoir relocation. Now there are probably more than 100 ways to do it. The way I have decided to do is I went ahead and bought this heater hose. It's the same thickness as this, and then you can just go get some plumbing supplies pretty much. So I got a 90-degree 3/4 fitting and a straight 3/4 fitting. Sorry, my flash is on so you can't really see. Whoa, that's bright, but you get the idea. When we come under here, you can see that I cut the hose for the radiator, and the hose kind of likes to face backwards. So this is one of the hoses, and then so obviously we're getting I cut it from there and here. If you try to attach it directly here, I really don't think it's gonna work because it's a very small surface, and this plastic clip is made to go on the reservoir, so I'm gonna go with that. And yeah, once the fittings are on, you can use this heater hose, or I am gonna use this heater hose to extend it. For the reservoir sensor, obviously the wires are down there, you have to extend them, there's no other choice. I hate tampering with wires, but in this case it's there's no option. Now for the reservoir return hose, this is really simple. It goes from here all the way to here. This is the original location it goes to. I ended up breaking the nozzle, so so far some contact cement, and hopefully this fixes the issue. So it's the next morning here, and as of now everything is hooked up like it should. I did not complete the relocation yet because I really want to have the subframe on, and once the subframe is on, just get the car out of the garage. It's been in here for way too long. So the plan right now is everything underneath is hooked up, all the intercooler piping, all the oil lines, the downpipes. The exhaust is not hooked up, but I have all the basics hooked up because I just want to make sure that that there's no oil leaks or coolant leaks from the turbo before I put in the subframe. So we are going to go ahead and try that right now. And yeah, just make sure before you actually turn on the car, remove your coil packs and just prime the car. So just to make sure that engine oil flows through the turbos. Otherwise, if you run them dry for too long, you could potentially damage the turbos. So So here we have a little bit of an update clip, guys. I have actually been running these turbos for about 2 days now. So all the smoke you guys saw in the last clip, that's actually the oils on the turbos being burnt off. So when they're shipped, they're actually covered in some sort of oils. And of course there was also some leftover, some leaking oil dripping over the turbo manifold. And that is the reason why it was smoking the way it was. At first I freaked out a little bit, but now it turns out everything is the way it's supposed to be. Now I'll zoom into the headers. As you can see, there was some... the headers are clean now because I ran them for a few days, the oil burnt off, but before there was some oil, a lot of oil on the headers actually, and it actually smoked continuously for 2 days before all of the oil burnt off. It actually vapes off, so it takes a good amount of time for it to completely vaporize. But so far the car pretty much feels like a slightly faster stage 2 car. So it's not incredibly fast yet until you do a low pressure fuel pump upgrade and you tune the car. So you have to order a custom tune depending on the size of the turbos you got, depending on the mods you have. There are free E85 hybrid turbo tunes available, so if you plan on running E85 you can get the tune for free, but in my case I want to run pump gas, so it's a bit different for me. On the other hand, this power steering pump and everything in here is just kind of sloshing around for now. Of course, I will be making brackets for it. That will be the next video, how to clean up the intake relocation. Now the car sounds really good. I will run a clip. So yeah guys, that is everything for today's video. Hopefully this video was helpful, and thanks a lot for joining in.